a research background in ecotoxicology and stress physiology. So I am an ocean advocate and I'm also a music fanatic. Um, so the way that I got involved and connected with Ascendance was through a music festival. I have been attending music events in the underground bass music scene in Kansas City, where I'm from, since about 2009. And over that time and many years just coming up in the music scene and attending events, I began to see the potential for impact in those spaces. Really, it's something that, how can you not see when you're attending these large events? But at that time, I didn't know that there was anyone anywhere doing anything about it. And it was more of just sort of a vague idea percolating in my brain about, the potential for impact through music, through culture and through events. So then flash forward to my time in graduate school at University of Miami and my first career move as a research scientist with NOAA. At that time, I was a scientist by day and a raver by night, or sometimes vice versa. But I met a woman who was spearheading this movement in Miami, doing exactly what I had dreamed of years ago, where, she was really transforming music events into classrooms and platforms for environmental action and environmental awareness. Um, So I volunteered with one of her programs, and then I reached out afterwards to see if if she had any opportunities for me to get involved. And at that time, she had said, "No, sorry," but it was okay because about a year later, Maddie reconnected us, and if you didn't guess it already, that woman is Vivian Hunter, the founder of Ascendance Sustainable Events. Um, Also, wait, I'm sorry, Maddie, am I supposed to share my screen or did we say you were?
I'm ready for either round.
I'm so sorry. Okay, let me go ahead and share my screen so that I'm not just talking at you. I'm sorry, y'all.
Okay.
Uh,
I'm
silly
on
me. It's
the
it's been a day.
It's been a week.
Here we go. So, okay, now this might make a little bit more sense. Here's my intro slide. Here is where I was introducing myself, and here's where we're at now. So I met Vivian. Um, Vivian's on the call already. I think she already said hello. Um, and she might chime in to say hi again because of my cold that I'm battling. But yeah, Vivian has over 20 years experience in event production, marketing, and has a really fascinating story as well about, her journey in sustainability, and really her foundational role in bringing event sustainability to the forefront of the scene in Miami. You can read our blog, which I'll link to later, to really hear the whole backstory. But in 2020, during, of course, the pandemic and the shutdown of everything, including live events, Vivian really took that time to inspire the industry to come back after the pandemic with sustainability as a central driving force. So truly, thank you to Vivian for being a trailblazer, and the leader that our industry needs. So today I'm going to share with you all a little bit um, more about event sustainability, about Ascendance's framework specifically that we've developed for events and our approach, some of our current projects and impact, as well as hoping to leave you all inspired with some action steps. So Ascendance is Miami's first sustainable event consulting company. So of course we consult event producers, venues, and artists, but really most of our clients bring us on to be as be part of their internal teams to serve as central hub for building, creating, managing, and implementing comprehensive and data-driven sustainability strategies and programs. We've worked with many different types and sizes of events, ranging from small conferences with a couple hundred people to large scale events and festivals with 170 plus daily attendees. So why events? Well, if you're like us, and most people in this room will probably agree that every industry is a climate industry, every job is a climate job. And when we say that events can change everything, it's because events are really a microcosm of society, essentially a temporary city that is built and then torn down in a matter of days or weeks. So what we do at events can be replicated and scaled. And a lot of the strategy and infrastructure that so many people in this room are working towards through, for our city, through Zero Waste Miami, for example, is really applicable at events and can be piloted and scaled from there. So events are, not unlike other industries, but they do present some unique challenges, which I'll go over here. For instance, events are, of course, by definition, temporary, and that presents challenges as far as operations and logistics when building out a sustainability strategy. The structure of event production is complex often. It's rarely or never rather, copy and pastable. A large event may have anywhere from dozens to hundreds of different vendors, partners, crews, teams, sponsors, with internal and external dynamics, different supply chains, different procurement strategies for different teams, as well as diverse stakeholder groups and different interests and goals. And that's, of course, not even to mention the audience. So, for instance, data shows that on average, up to 80% of an event's total greenhouse gas emissions come from audience travel alone. And the event industry is, of course, really closely linked with the tourism industry, where your audience might be like-minded in some ways, in the sense that they're attending the same event, but can be very broad in other ways. So these factors combined, as well as others, have made events, historically high waste, high emission, and high impact on our planet. But of course, there is so much opportunity and already so much momentum within the live events industry. And that opportunity really stems from the fact that events are peak cultural and social experiences. They both define and reflect and can shape society. So academic literature around event tourism has called festivals specifically incubators of change. And I think as we go on, you'll hopefully see what I mean by that. Events, of course, bring great economic benefits to their cities, and they have the opportunity or really the responsibility to lead in environmental action and social responsibility. This is a growing industry as well. The events industry is growing globally, according to all data sources. In 2023 alone, the ticket sales for music events in the US grew by 20%, and that's from 20% growth from pre-pandemic attendance levels. And there's also some data to suggest growing demand for sustainability in the industry. Some surveys have shown that nearly 70% of the audiences surveyed said that they would prefer events that foster connection to nature and that demonstrate sustainable practices, which is incredible, of course, but it's not unlike data regarding sustainable demand for products across other industries. The number of people that recognize sustainability as a top factor of whether they would attend that event or not, and whether they'd be willing to pay more for an event that's demonstrating sustainable practices. That data is not as robust. However, large events and venues really have the power to bring sustainable infrastructure to their cities. We talk a lot about this in terms of reuse infrastructure and how, venues, larger venues adopting these strategies could really be the key to bringing some of those things to a city and making them more accessible for our community. And then, of course, socially, humans are pretty hardwired to idolize artists, musicians, celebrities, and athletes. So those really powerful platforms that they hold can inspire change through events. And that's some of what I mean when I say on the slide, leveraging sustainable development. So events have a great sphere of influence, of course, from the internal teams, the producers, the staff, moving sort of outward to the vendors and partners, sponsors, and then, of course, the audience, the broader community, and then the ultimate stakeholder as our planet. So really just continually inspired by how events can touch people, shift behaviors. And so we really believe what better way to reach people with sustainability and scale it than through the culture of events. So that brings me to our work with Ascendance and the framework that Ascendance has built to work with event producers. So again, we really strive to take a comprehensive approach and to be as proactive to build sustainability into the foundation of the event's operations. So typically, we work with an events team, ideally 6 to 8 months before their event gates open, and knowing that that impact extends far beyond the event itself and after doors close. So we work with them to achieve objectives of pollution prevention, nature preservation, waste reduction, climate action, and community engagement. And our framework consists of over 70 different initiatives to help them meet these objectives. And of course, there's a lot of overlap in these objectives and what they accomplish. But from an operational perspective, this is what we focus on. I'm going to pass it to Vivian for a second if she has some input on the framework, just because I need to clear my throat and take a sip of water. Sorry, sickness.
Please take a breath. No, first of all, thank you all so much for having us. It's been really an honor to be a part of Zero Waste Miami and to see so many of the people who have kind of been on this journey with us too since the beginning. I was actually, Milly, when you were telling the story about us meeting, I realized that that was a cleanup that was, co-sponsored or co-partnered by Debris Free Oceans. It was listed on volunteercleanup.org. So there's a lot of people in the room who had to do with our growth and our ability to get established in this city. And I'm just so appreciative to all of you for being there, for all of the work that you do, and for having us here today. Milly, you're doing a great job, by the way. Thank you for doing this, even being sick. Yeah, this is the approach that we built specifically for events. When I was creating this, it was really because I wanted to simplify a lot of the academic approaches to sustainability. I literally took a couple of different textbooks on sustainability and I just started to try to water it down and, like really just get to the point and get to the why of what we were doing operationally. And so these are kind of the five buckets that we came up with and that we continue to use today. And actually we're adding a sixth one little by little as we get more and more advanced. We're kind of moving into diversity and inclusion and making sure that that's also a piece of what events are striving towards. So there's a social sustainability element in there. But when we're talking environmental, these are really the objectives that we use. And I think the reason that I really want you all to kind of take a minute to look at these is because we believe that this approach can be used kind of for sustainability in general as well. It's what we've seen with other projects that we've been approached for that are, like not in the event space at all, we can still kind of apply this approach to sustainability projects at large. And so the reason that, we really wanted to kind of spend some time here today is because we invite you to look at these objectives for ways to not only like, do the work that you do, because we're sure that, you have your own approaches as well, but maybe to simplify the way that you're explaining what you do to your partners, your clients, and especially to people who are learning about sustainability for the first time, right? This is just a kind of really easy way to break down the different ways that we can, meet environmental objectives. So hope that helps. And Millie, if you're ready, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. So yeah, also just hi.
Can you hear me?
Sorry?
Can we do a quick audience question before you come back, Milly?
Sure.
I was wondering if you could give us an example of what climate action looks like for a one-time event.
Yeah, so actually that's a great segue. The next thing that we're going to talk about is going through some examples of each objective. So yeah, we can just dive in there. We'll go in order, so we'll get to climate action in a couple of minutes. But yeah, we'll start off with pollution prevention. Another good segue, I wanted to kind of give you all a moment to share your ideas of what do you think this looks like? Starting with pollution prevention, how can and should an event take this on?
Reusable or compostable disposables?
No single use.
No single use, yeah.
Virtual people, can you hear? I've got a new mic.
I guess like fencing, so if there are we'll get into the bay.
Yeah, so I heard for switching to compostables or limiting single use, and then I heard fencing, physical barriers. So yeah, as we said, and as you'll continue to see, there's so much overlap between a lot of the objectives, and as far as switching to compostables or switching to reuse, we consider a lot of that to be more of the waste reduction side of things. But of course, limiting any sources of waste is going to naturally, prevent opportunities for pollution. Same with the fencing. We consider that part of the nature preservation, but again, it all fits together like a beautiful puzzle. So yeah, I'll go over a couple of our examples from our initiative framework. But yeah, for instance, heightened cleaning standards is part of pollution prevention. So that refers to, having the waste management and the ground sweeping teams be specifically trained in essentially leave no trace practices. This goes above and beyond kind of what's required by an event's permit as far as how they leave the grounds, but really like a heavy focus on micro litters. Maddie, I see your hand as well.
Yeah, so we have one more audience question.
So seeing what pollution prevention looks like now from your list, would something like, because you mentioned travel being an enormous part of the pollution, would something like thinking about how to incentivize attendees to use lower waste solutions, would that be the kind of thing that fits in pollution prevention? Like thinking about how people travel to the event as part of it? Would that fit in this category?
Yeah, I love that as well, considering air pollution and emissions as far as attendee transport. Yeah, there definitely could be a case for including it here. So yeah, great thoughts, everybody. But sorry, yeah, just going back into the cleaning standards, that's number one for the teams that are responsible for maintaining the grounds, but also taking a proactive approach as well with all teams, integrating the role of every team in being stewards of their own areas on the site, being extremely mindful and proactive in their approach to anything that they bring onto the grounds, and how they ensure that it's properly managed. Spillage and runoff is, another pollution prevention metric. So of course we think of, oil and diesel as far as hazardous fluids on site for production power and heavy machinery, but also things like paint, porta potty fluids, gray water from food and beverage service. So this refers to really having a strategy from the event producer themselves, as far as here's how we handle and remediate any instances of potentially hazardous fluids on site, as well as having resources available to prevent impact from those fluids, cleanup supplies, personal protective equipment, things like this. And then again, kind of integrating the role of everyone to say that, keep eyes out for any unknown fluids and, report to sustainability for, assessment and remediation. Responsible production effects also goes into a lot of the examples that you all gave of just eliminating things, reducing or eliminating things that could often easily become pollution, so that it's not, something that has to be considered after the fact. So that could be things like balloons, of course, glitter cannons and things like that that will essentially irrevocably become sources of litter. And then incentivizing the attendee participation here in this context under pollution prevention. There's a ton of ways that we'll continue to discuss as far as how to engage the audience as far as that external community, but incentivizing and encouraging attendee participation in pollution prevention can look like, partnering for cleanups before the event. Something that we do at a lot of our music events is have dance floor cleanups where we have volunteers that sort of lead this dance party charge through the grounds. And again, it's not to have the volunteers pick up the grounds, it's to get the wheels turning for audience members to participate and dance along while they're taking care of the grounds. Any other questions there, or want to hop on to the next one?
Questions in the audience?
Oops, well, I just gave the next one away, but nature preservation, does anyone want to share any thoughts here as far as what events can and should do? I think it was Katie that already said something earlier about fencing and physical barriers for sensitive spaces.
Yeah, be considerate where you're hosting the event.
Yeah, exactly. So this is something that, sorry, was someone else saying something?
Directional lighting so that you keep the light in the event so you're not, blinding birds or it's like
Or just leading turtles.
right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's a great one, and that's huge for outdoor events. Something that's really, always a fun conversation is, having events in urban environments. Sometimes people may not realize the extent of which, we have an impact on our urban landscape, on, of course, the migratory birds, the nesting birds here as well. So yeah, it's all something that's considered. So some examples of what we do, for instance, we do really a full assessment of the site. Our team is usually the first team on site when construction for the event starts, and the last team to leave the site at the end, before the venue is handed back over. And that is to be able to do, again, an extensive assessment of potential ways to mitigate any impact to wildlife and vegetation. We've also implemented on-site wildlife remediation strategies where our team is trained and knowledgeable about how to safely handle any injured or upset wildlife on the site. And this is something that's been really cool as an example of just where I've seen a drastic shift in the stewardship that teams take over the site, where this is a construction site, and just after a few years of implementing the wildlife remediation strategies, we've seen, full teams completely stop what they're doing and shut down for a short time, which is unheard of to be able to go and report a wildlife concern that they had, which was like really, really incredible to see just everyone, how that knowledge and those wheels were turning as far as what they can do and their role in protecting the environment on the site. And then, of course, as someone mentioned, fencing or other types of physical protections for trees, vegetation, wildlife, and waterways. And that is physical barriers as well as educational signage. Again, both behind the scenes for the staff and the crews that are building, and then as well as, on the front side for attendees to be aware of protecting the area around them. And that ties into this larger sort of environmental awareness campaign that the event can use their platform to share with both their audience and with global audience or followers. I know we'll definitely have a lot of ideas for waste reduction. So many people in this coalition are really involved in waste reduction efforts. Does anyone have anything else beyond what was shared regarding compostables and reuse that they want to talk about?
I would say that the materials that are used to build stages and structures and art installations be repurposed or reused for the following year or donated rather than thrown out.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, the structural materials for build and for production and for decor, that's key. And yeah, the reuse either through rental or through, reusing internally, rescuing or repurposing, diverting to other potential uses is huge. As well as just material selection from the beginning, right? So having the entire production, the goal of reuse or rescue in mind when you're selecting how to produce your event. Same with merchandise practices. And then, of course, there is the need for waste sorting and diversion of other sources of waste, including food and beverage and everything that happens on site. So I'm also realizing that it's 5:46, so I might speed up a little bit. So that being said, I'll go ahead and share with you some of our climate action strategies. So first of all, energy use, efficient energy use, or even, of course, shifting towards clean energy is an ultimate goal. But for energy efficiency, that's usually where we begin because there's a trend in the industry to oversupply power, to give a large buffer of power. Some of the electrical engineers that we've worked with have identified sometimes that buffer is up to 800%. So really getting those efficiency studies done in order to develop a smarter plan for power usage is something that can save the event money, of course, as well as, saving a massive amount of impact, GHG emissions accounting, assessment, and reduction to reduce as much as possible to understand the baseline of the event's emissions status, and then continue to build out a strategy to continue reducing transportation. Again, this goes for, transporting of materials, sourcing things locally, as well as the audience and staff and artist transportation. And as someone shared, there's definitely ways to incentivize that and make it something that people can get involved with and really take ownership over their travel. Food waste reduction, again, one of those significant overlaps when we're talking about waste reduction and climate action. But because of the impact of organics in our landfill, we tend to talk about food reduction and rescue in terms of climate action, and as well as shifting towards more plant-based menu options and having that be available and on the forefront of people's minds as they're experiencing the events. Does anyone want to share any climate, or sorry, rather community engagement ideas or strategies?
Have a fundraiser to donate to nonprofits that support what we're talking about here today.
Yes, I love it. And yeah, we've had the incredible honor, like we said, of working with so many local nonprofits, having their presence on site for educational campaigns, as well as direct give back to them through materials or donations. Just want to speak a little bit again about sort of this community that we're talking about is both the internal audience, meaning the teams involved, and then as well as the external audience, and how both audiences can be engaged in unique ways, and how that also ties into how you market the event, how you talk about what we're doing, with the ultimate goal of, again, inspiring the industry, inspiring the community to move forward in this direction. And that all is dependent on data collection and reporting, to really make sure that everything is data driven to have the most impact.
What are ways you approach artists in order for them to engage in this initiative?
Yeah, so with artists, there's a couple of different strategies. First and foremost, it can be something that's, a part of their contract and in the terms. There has been a large movement of organizations that have written eco riders. So the rider is a document that comes with the artist contract. It's essentially, what they need, their requirements. Sometimes it's beverage orders. Sometimes it's, certain things that their teams need when they're on site. So having an eco rider that the artist can sign on to say, like, whether it's, I don't want single-use plastics in my trailer, or, I want to support events that are, taking these steps to reduce their impact. There's that side of it, as far as, their own actions. And then there's the opportunity for them to speak about the events programs, or speak about, what they're doing in their own life, and promoting, this cause is something that they care about in order to shift culture that way. So yeah, those are really the two main ways. And then sometimes it can be incentivized with, behind the scenes sustainability tours, or even having the artist make an appearance at, for instance, one of the community partnerships or one of the cleanups, just to continue to use their platform for positive change.
And we have one more comment.
Yeah,
Okay.
I just wanted to mention, it might already be on your radar, but the earthday.org, I'm not affiliated except that we're all connected, but the theme for the year is Our Power, Our Planet, and it's all about renewable. So on that sponsor integration piece, if you wanted to capitalize on that and say, hey, let's bring renewable, let's like make it the year about this, it's just not something that might help event planners to get that sponsorship, to get people thinking about solar.
Amazing. Thank you. Yeah, I'll take note of that for sure. That's a really great resource.
Not just solar, all renewable power sources.
Yeah, totally. Awesome. Well, again, I know we only have a few minutes left, so I do want to share a little bit about our previous and current impact and projects, and then, hopefully leave you all with something that you can take away as well. So here's some of our event impact that we've quantified from our work. This is not including Ultra Music Festival, which I'll get to in just a few minutes. But yeah, we're really proud to say that, again, we've worked with so many incredible partners and experts in, waste diversion, that we've helped events divert up to 87% of their waste. And again, a lot of that impact as well comes downstream with the environmental education campaigns that we've developed for events, having reached nearly 100,000 people at this point. So our current projects, one that we're really excited to share with you all is, as was mentioned at the beginning, our collaboration with Debris Free Oceans and the City of Miami Beach to offer custom sustainability plans, both short-term and long-term, for 10 Miami Beach events and venues this year. So we started this program several months ago, and we've already developed plans, or are in various stages of developing the plans for 7 events so far. And this program is really unique to our knowledge. It's the first, at least in our region, that the municipality is investing in this type of program for events specifically. So we've been working with the producers of some of the biggest events here, Aaron C. Show, Scope, we just wrapped up with, as well as Sobe Food and Wine Festival, which of course already has a very extensive and incredible sustainability program that we heard from Dr. John Bushman and his team a couple months ago about on one of these earlier meetings. But the program is built to, again, understand the event's specifics, operations and logistics, as well as their goals, build out a custom plan for them with all of our best recommendations on how to implement, connections to local suppliers and vendors and partners that can support them. And then the key piece as well is that Debris Free Oceans leads the on-site component of the program, where they attend the event and they do an assessment of everything that the event, agreed to in their plan. And, they verify it with photos and data, help identify areas for continued growth, and just keep everyone accountable for to follow through on their plans. So then we'll provide them with an impact report at the end, as well as then a long-term sustainability plan. So the goals that they have for next year or for a few years from now, we give them a similar plan with those detailed best practices and recommendations of how they can implement their future goals. So then, I'm sorry, I know I only have 3 minutes left. But I did want to share about Ultra Music Festival. As I said, the Ascendance team is also the team behind Ultra's sustainability program, Mission Home. We'll be celebrating our 5th iteration of Mission Home in 2025, so this upcoming season. And we have recently released our 2024 impact report. So I'll share some screenshots of the socials post here. But we were really excited and honored again to have reached 50% waste diversion achieved at the 2024 event. And that was, again, thanks to so many incredible partners that we worked with to divert through 6 different waste streams. Food rescue has always been a large one of our diversion streams, and we donate all of that food to the Miami Rescue Mission. One of our new programs this year, as Maddie had mentioned at the top of the call, as a big win from this coalition, is that we connected with Recreate Miami to divert multiple tons rather, of post-construction wood and materials to be repurposed by local community members. And what wasn't taken by Recreate was diverted from the landfill through Florida wood recycling to be used as mulch. So the expansion of our waste reduction efforts were really impactful this year, as well as our campaign reaching 0.4 million people, educating them not only on, environmental practices for their own lives, but really about, Biscayne Bay and, our ecosystems here and how we're working to protect them, as well as achieving, again, 88% reduction in single-use plastic types from our food and beverage service. So yeah, and again, I'm sorry, I can't shout out all the incredible partners that we worked with on this. But yeah, we hope that if you haven't come to Ultra before, maybe this year will be the year. We'd love to see you there. And so that brings me to our call to action for you all. First and foremost, supporting the sustainable event movement. We all know that we vote with our dollars. So supporting events, attending events that are demonstrating sustainable practices that are aligned with your values, speaking up about this on social media to, help promote events that are leading the way, as well as reaching out directly to event producers and telling them what you want to see. If you recognize the impact that's there, you can use your voice in that way as well. And then finally, you can also send event producers or conference hosts, anyone that that's in the industry, you can send them our way. Ascendance is taking on new clients for 2025, and we'd love to work with anyone locally, nationally, internationally to continue this journey. So with that, I'd also love to ask you to please connect with us if you're not already. Through our website, you can receive the first edition of our Elevating Event Sustainability Guide that was published in 2020. And just a quick plug that our second edition will be released in 2025 with all of its updates. So if you sign up for our newsletter through our website, then you'll automatically receive that guide for free. And again, you can share it with anyone in the event industry that or any other members of your network or community. So with that, that's all I have for you all today. Thank you so much